Commissioner Jim Flynn,
Yeah.
Commissioner Dan Grove.
Notice regarding adjournment, the planning commission will not hear new items after 9:30 unless authorized by a majority vote of the commission members present. Items which have not been heard before 9:30 may be continued to the next regular meeting or a special meeting date as determined by commission members. May I have an adoption of the minutes of October the 23rd?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Same.
Do we have any public comment? No? Okay.
Uh-oh.
No old business, so we'll go to new business, a venture at Oakity Bluff, certificate of appropriateness for the HCOD, a request by Whitmer Jones Kiefer on behalf of Parcel 8A LLC for approval of a COFA for the architecture, landscaping, and lighting for apartment complex to include 6 multifamily residential buildings with approximately 150 dwelling units, 4 garage buildings, a clubhouse, amenities, and associated infrastructure. Charlotte.
Excuse me. Thank you for the introduction. Let me get right into it. Again, this is for the architecture, lighting, and landscaping. Dan will be presenting the portion about landscaping. So let me go ahead and jump right in to the location of the property. As you indicated, it is a 16-acre property of a former 22-acre tract. It is located at the corner, northeast corner of Highway 170 and Gibbet Road. Here is the proposed plan. The development plan has been approved, and it does include 6 apartment buildings. There are 4 different variations of the buildings, and I'll go over the various elevations in just a moment. It does include 4 parking garages and 1 clubhouse as well. So I'm not going to go, I have a bunch of slides relating to the floor plans, the architecture, and the roof plan for each building. I'm not going to go through each. These are going to be for us to reference, but I just want you to be aware that I do have them all. I have a ton of slides, so I'm going to go through them very quickly. On this particular one, I have identified on the roof plan that there are some pitches that are a little bit lower than is permitted by ordinance, and I did overlook that in my review. I want you to be aware of that. Here's apartment A2. We are missing a couple of elevations, the front and side for the building A2. I don't have a second floor plan for the A2 building. This is building B. And then we also have a building C as well. Again, on this particular roof plan for building C, we have some roof pitches that are lower than is permitted by ordinance. Here is the architectural plan for the clubhouse. At the floor plan, identification of an area that I think we'll need to talk about with regard to the roof line. And then we also have architectural plans for the parking garages as well, including the roof plan, door and window elevations. I do have some color renderings as well of just the clubhouse and of building A. And I've got some sections as well. Let me, sorry, there's so many slides here. It's kind of hard to know where to kind of jump in on this. Dumpster enclosures, mechanical details. We'll need to talk about HVAC placement on the roof. There is some concern with that as it relates to visibility from the highway. And then the landscape plan, Dan will talk about that in just a moment. And then the lighting is as well. I do want to indicate that the lighting, the photometric plan that was presented was fine. We did ask for some additional information regarding the various light fixtures. I did receive one with the submittal, and the applicant provided the rest of the fixtures today. So there is no concern with that. Going back through the comments from staff, we didn't have too many, but I do want to talk about them in just more detail in just a moment. As you know, there are several review criteria that have to be applied in the review process and your decision-making, and I have provided them there. This particular application would need to comply with the design standard requirements of the UDO and be in conformance with the Buckwalter Development Agreement, the PUD concept plans, the master plan, the subdivision, and any other agreements that there may be, and also consistent with the application's manual. The various actions of the Planning Commission include approving the plan as submitted by the applicant, approving it with conditions, or denying the application. So I want to go through my recommendations, and then we can kind of back into the plan as well. So there was a little bit of a concern regarding the ground floor of each apartment building. When the plan was initially submitted, the front of the buildings had brick going all the way up to the second floor, and in the rear and the sides of the buildings, the brick only went up halfway. So there needed to be consistency, and it was staff's recommendation that the brick extend all the way to the second floor. The second recommendation that we have after reconsideration of this, after looking at the plans today, we felt like the long rear elevations of each apartment building were articulated enough that we feel like this particular recommendation is no longer necessary. As I indicated previously, the rooftop mechanical equipment is a little bit of a concern, and our recommendation is that it not be allowed to extend beyond the parapet wall, that it be completely screened, and if it should be constructed and be visible, then that could be a reason to potentially halt construction. The other determination is one that comes up often relating to lighting. We don't, fortunately, the regulations were developed prior to LED lighting, so it's not a permitted lighting type. And so Planning Commission would need to make a determination that the LED lighting as proposed is appropriate. And the name of the development, we have learned, is Okatee Bluffs. So not one bluff, it's multiple. So I wanted to make sure we had that correct going forward. We do not need a letter from the declarant. That's fine, so I have crossed that out, number 6. Any comments that are outstanding would need to be addressed in a final development plan, and that plan would have to be approved prior to issuing the certificate of appropriateness, HCO. Any signage for the property would be through a separate sign permitting process. So let me back up. Here and go to the elevations. Into brick and show you what the applicant proposed instead, and we can talk about this particular one, Building C. And as you see there, the brick is shown. This is a front elevation. The brick is actually halfway up the first floor, maybe not quite halfway, but it is now consistent around the entirety of the building. You can see the rear looks exactly like the front, and then the sides as well. And again, previously there was some inconsistency regarding the height. Let me talk about and as you can see here on the roof plan, and this is similar to the other building types, that we have the HVAC equipment located on top of the roof instead of on the ground. And let me show you some sections here. Sorry, got quite a few slides. Regarding the mechanical details. As you can see there, the HVACs, the equipment is located here on a platform and would be screened by a parapet wall. It would not be visible from standing. If you were at the ground looking up, that equipment would not be visible. And I understand there may be some concern looking at it from a side view as you're driving down 170. That front area will be buffered. Of course, it's going to take a little while for that vegetation to grow. And so that's something I think we probably need to talk about in some further detail. And while I mentioned buffer, let me go to the landscape plan too. I'm sorry, I'm kind of bouncing around here a little bit tonight. Let me have Dan talk about this plan.
Okay, Charlotte just went over the architectural and the lighting. The third thing that's reviewed for the COFA is the landscape plan. We worked closely with the applicant and Whitmer Jones Kiefer on the landscape plan. There was actually, over the entire site, only 2 trees were in excess of 24 inches. So when you drive by and you look, and it looks completely, there was lots of trees on site. Only 2 had reached 24 inches. What we worked with them on was, one of the requests was for, the requirement is 15 trees per acre. The subdivision had been, the subject parcel where the properties are on now, it's been subdivided. The applicant is the owner of the parcel. It comes out to 16.04 acres for the subject property. 86 trees remain on site, and what they're proposing in their landscape plan is 31 trees at 2.5 inches caliper, and those are counted as 1-to-1, so 31 trees there. And then 110 trees would be calculated at 4-inch caliper, and that's the table that's on the landscape plan that's in your packet. So when you add all that up, it's 86 trees remaining, plus 31 trees at 1-to-1, 2.5-inch caliper, and then the 110 trees at 4-inch count 2-to-1, so that's 220. 86, 220, 31 adds up to 337 trees. Over 16 acres works out to 21 trees per acre, so they're well in excess of the 15 trees per acre. And we did work closely with them back and forth. A lot of the plantings are up in the front buffer. Charlie Whitmore called that out. We definitely had enough back and forth, and they satisfied staff that they're providing the requirement of section 533 of 15 trees per acre. And the applicant can respond to anything on that when you guys get to it. I don't know if, are you wanting to go back to architecture? Or did you have any questions specific with the landscape plan?
Let me just make a comment on that. The clarifying factor is, give me the code again, Dan.
15 trees per acre when you're above 1 acre and site.
Okay. The intent of the buffer not being able to use trees in the buffer is if there are existing trees there. This particular property does not have significant existing trees in the buffer. So putting trees in the buffer is different than leaving trees in the buffer.
Yes,
Just so we have clarification for future projects.
that's correct. Thank you.
Anybody else have a question for Dan or Charlotte? Did you want to say anything else? Or I can open it up to the applicant if you're
I'm done.
done.
The
Okay.
applicant's here if you guys
If the
need to.
applicant would like to speak, come on up.
Good evening. Name, address is Adrian Dana Miller with Millstone. We are the owner and developer. And then also with me here, I have T. Player from Parks Player, who's our architect. And I have Caleb and Brian from Whitmer Jones Kiefer. And we're just here to answer any questions you have tonight and hold any discussion with you about anything we want to talk about our application. So, thank you.
I will, just one comment before you go away. When you came to DRC for the HCOD to kind of get a feel for this, and it was made very clear to you that we aren't messing around with the tree requirement. I appreciate that y'all paid attention to it.
Yeah.
So, just saying thank you for that aspect of it. You're probably going to get beat up a little bit on the architectural in a minute. Just keep in mind, we appreciate what you've done so far.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. Yeah, and we appreciate staff working with us to figure that out and figure out a way that we can make it all work. So.
All right.
I'll stay up here and field questions. And if anything gets sufficiently technical, I might call on the reinforcements back here. But
That's fine. Okay, I don't know how we want to start or open it up, but I know that there were several of us that had certain concerns, some of the architectural things.
Yep.
And if you want to go to some of the elevations, just so we can kind of talk them through.
I guess.
And there's no particular order, because I think it's just,
Yeah, so I'm not really sure which one to go to. Is there
we can
something
start
in?
with the clubhouse.
Okay.
That's fine.
The clubhouse, okay.
Okay.
Before we get into specifics, the overall with Highway Corridor Overlay District is we are tasked with making sure that the project, all of the buildings in the project, as they present to that main corridor, appear to be the front of the building, whether they are or not. And so that's part of what you're going to hear. The other is a roof pitch issue, I think.
Yes.
But anyways,
So I think that the front elevation, is this 170 elevation.
yeah, the one on top.
Right. We had concerns with the materials, and this kind of goes for all the buildings with the board and batten spacing, as far as, it seems a little wide. And that makes me think it's just a big sheet of hardy panel and you're just putting strips up instead of actually like cutting the panels to make a proper sizing. So I think that
Yeah,
you need to look at that.
okay. Yeah, so we can make it any width, you know. What we had previously was, I think we had it wider at 24 inches. I was talking with T about it before. So we reduced it down to 16 inches, like stud spacing, probably about this wide. We kind of like the wide format, like board and batten look, and thought that it looked good. It is something that's very flexible, right? You can kind of make those panels any size. So if we wanted to do 12 inch, let's say, that is an option.
My opinion is I would go down a size, just because of the spans of all of the buildings. I don't know if anybody else had an opinion about that.
I agree.
is the result that it'll make it not look as long, it'll kind of tighten it up in the.
Wide, yeah, elongate it a little bit.
Okay.
One of our major concerns is not having a long, expansive mass.
Yeah, breaking it up visually, maybe. So that's agreeable to us.
And that would be for all buildings, so they all match.
Yeah, that's okay.
The other thing is on the rear, I think I know why you did it, but I don't think you need to do it. That clip in the roof, is there a reason why specific that it needs to be that way?
Yes. T, do you know if there's a specific reason why we did that? I
If you
remember
step
it
up
being a point
to
of
the microphone.
discussion. Yeah, come on up.
So I'm T. Player with Parks Player Architecture. The real reason was just to create more of just to get more sun, more or less, to make it more open. Dropping it down to the same height as the fascia, going all the way around the building is not a problem.
Where do you live?
Greenville, South Carolina.
Yeah, it's a little warm here sometimes.
Well, it's warm in Greenville too. You sure you want more sun? Sorry.
I mean, my opinion would be to drop it down either even with, or this would be the opportunity, you could create a dormer with like brackets or something, to highlight the middle, but that's my opinion.
I think from a design standpoint, our preference would be just to drop it down, but we're open to any suggestions if you guys are recommending something else as well.
Does anyone else have any comments? Because that was one of the town's highlighted areas as well.
Yeah, so I'm good with that too. And then, so will these become kind of like the comments or the conditions if we are approved that will like accompany our
Yes,
approval?
just depends on,
And we'll make the adjustments.
it depends on how much. Like, I don't want to get into a situation where we're having like a list of 10 or more items, because we won't have anything, like, we need to see the result.
Well,
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, this might make it a little bit easier. With some of the stuff we're about to get into, I would assume the other commissioners have some of the concerns we have. about the side of the garage, the side of a couple of the major apartment buildings, I'm gonna want to see the revisions. This is not something that, you've got electrical panels, you've got some other things. I think, I hate to tell you this, coming into Christmas, but the list is probably going to be not exhaustive, but it's going to be a little bit longer than do these three things. And
Yeah.
Because there's also, as Charlotte pointed out, missing elevations or pages or something. So we don't have a way to review that.
We should go through and make sure they know what our concerns are.
well, yeah.
And that, Charlotte had them written on her slideshow, in the red.
Okay, well, that sounds.
So we're in
I hear
agreement
you
with
guys. I
the
think-
town.
So I
Well,
was hoping
you
that
only
the
heard
DR
one of us. The others haven't spoken to that.
Yeah.
I was
so we're
hoping
two.
that the DRC process, and I thought we addressed all or nearly all of the comments that we got during DRC. So I was hoping that that would lead to a shorter list, which would allow us to, not have to wait a month for another planning commission meeting. But let's go through the list and talk about the things and see where we land.
Okay. Charlotte, did you have a list, or is it just on each slide that you had the red?
Yeah, put together
I'm just trying to remember so the 412 pitch in the UDO is a requirement. So I'm just not sure how some of those 412s will, 312s, or 312s changing to 412 on a 512 roof is going to work. Leading up to the dormers on this particular page and elevation of this building specifically, and if the others are just like it, so it would be the same comment is, do you need the dormers and what are they for? Because if you don't need them, don't put them. I know that y'all made a comment at the RC or at some point and said, well, that was low country architecture. That's not what makes low country architecture. So I think you can remove them. I think they're a detriment to the design currently.
Yeah, that's fine. If that's what we need to do, we can remove them. They are just purely ornamental, essentially, so.
Yeah,
it's,
I don't think that
not a
they're doing
problem.
anything for you, whereas on the clubhouse, when you had that middle piece, when I was saying that's where you could actually make a real dormer. These are just kind of applied. And so.
A little bit odd, to be honest, with the column
Placement.
spacing. Like, you wouldn't typically ever have a center column that's centered on a dormer. You wouldn't have the dormer walls extend beyond the columns. And typically, the dormer would provide a purpose, whether it's daylight or something more decorative. This
Or a ceiling change or something.
related.
Yeah, and it's almost like not really even a dormer. It's just like a way to take a section of the roof that's kind of a big section and just add something in there that breaks it up a little bit, which we thought might be good, but if it's not well received, it's just.
Yeah,
as
I mean,
easy to
the
not-
dormer, like you said, has to serve a purpose, an intent. It can't just be applied.
Got it.
So I think from the standpoint of the 3 and 12 roofs, if we're going to get rid of that one, then that obviously resolves that problem. In the other 3 and 12 pitch roofs, that can easily go up to a 4 and 12, and it's really not going to change anything.
Where else were the 3 and 12s at? I know they were the dormers, but where else, just to make sure that they're not on a 5? Because I think it would
A
be.
4 and 12 into a 5 and 12 tends
It'd
to
be
end
hard.
up really, really high up on the roof.
Charlotte, I believe it was building A roof plan.
Like I say, there's one roof plan that has about 5 or 6 of them on it.
Right there. So the yellow highlight, the one on the bottom will go away. The one on the
Backside of
the
that.
rear, those are all in the rear. Changing that to in 412.
Now, let me ask this then, now that I'm looking at it like that 312, is that just a cricket?
That is exactly right.
So, I mean,
It's not a roof.
that's a cricket. So
That's fine.
Good. Right.
my opinion is I think a cricket would be fine, but what about the 3 and 12 after that 5 and 12?
So, Charlotte, do you mind, or if I could operate it?
Yeah, please.
Do I use this?
Yes.
We just have to make sure we're being consistent with the UDO because we've had other applicants
Yeah, I understand.
have 312 pitches, and in the UDO, it clearly states it has to be 412. So we just have to make sure and justify everything.
So on this building right here, you see in the very middle where the roof is, there's a line that goes left to right that is underneath kind of the vertical wall.
Oh, I see.
It's just going to raise that line up probably about a foot.
Yeah, that's fine. Lydia, do you have thoughts on the?
Just simply, it just be one thing that's good to see because it's not, you're making it almost the same slope as the main roof. So I don't know that it's only going to come up a foot. It'd just be good to see what that looks like and if it changes anything. Hopefully in that location, it shouldn't be
Is
an
the
issue.
cricket perpendicular to the gables?
So the crickets, so you see the gables there? You can see a little line in between where they connect. That's where the cricket is, right there. So
I'm not concerned so much on the side crickets. It's more the one that's centered.
in the middle. And the reason we do this is just from a roof overhang standpoint. Trying to think the best way to explain this. In order to match the roof pitches where they come out on the left, far left and the right, the middle area is a little bit, if I'm not mistaken, further out. So you have to do a different pitched roof in order to match that. So
But you
that's
don't
what-
have to have those two eaves match. They're not touching each other.
I don't think the eaves do match.
Is that what you were trying
No,
to?
it's just from a roof design standpoint and how trusses are made. You have to have some different pitch right there. You cannot continue the same pitch all the way down.
I understand that. I thought you were trying to align it with the same eave as the other piece.
No.
So I was
What
like,
I'm
that
just
wouldn't
saying is
work.
that line, in order from going from a 3 and 12 to a 4 and 12, is just going to raise that up. Just a very small amount.
Yeah, and the roof's a 6, is the rest
This
of the
one's
roof pitch a 6 and 12, or is?
I believe it's-
There are some somewhere that are 5.
The
Go
hip
back
end-
to that
the hip
other
ends
one
and
that showed the
gables are 6
crickets.
and 12.
Let's see if I can find back where I was. Oh, getting lost.
Yeah. Okay, it's the clubhouse.
Yeah.
That's why. Is no, what was that? There's 5s on these. So we're not consistent with our
Well,
pitches?
You just passed it.
Which one am I, were we on?
Right back to where you were with the yellow was. No, that's not it. It's roof plan A, technically,
Okay.
what we're talking about. There you go. So we got 5 and 12s coming down on the front. The gables are 6 and 12, just as the same as the ends of the building. So pretty much any apartment project you're going to see, you're going to have different pitched roofs going front to back.
Why do they do
side
that?
to side. It just, why do you do that?
Yeah.
Well, the gables are going down like that, so the sides should match that. So
I think, my opinion would be one of the reasons you do that is because the distance on the 5 and 12 roof, the higher pitch you do on that, it really climbs like really high into the air and it just looks like a massive roof.
Okay.
So that would be like a reason to lower the pitch on that, in that direction a little bit so that the building doesn't look like it's half building and half roof.
and it's just a design standpoint. If you keep the same pitch everywhere, the gables, if you drop those down, we feel like they're not going to really meet the intent of the code. And if you do a 6 and 12 everywhere, as Adrian said, it's just going to raise that whole roof up.
Just looking at this though, a 3 and 12 into a 5 and 12, and even a 6 and 12, but especially going from a 3 to a 4 into a 5, that is not a small raising. Those are almost the same pitch, so they're almost parallel. That roof is going to come up quite a bit, and I'm not sure it's going to be a problem, but it is something that we would need to see.
So, but we're gonna eliminate the dormer ones.
Yeah, but there's still the one on the rear that has to be a 4, and it's going into a 5.
Gotcha.
So she's just saying we would like to visually see where that hits because those two roofs are basically almost parallel. So that means it's going to rise up around the same time.
Why isn't that just a 512 all the way, like the other elements on that side of the roof?
It's just the roof where the,
You see what I'm saying?
oh, I do.
The ends are 5.2 and then,
The roof is longer where that occurs, basically, so you can't continue that 5 and 12 all the way the same, or it's going to just stop way short of where the intent of where it needs to go out to. So it has to change pitch in order to get out to the edge of the decks, more or less.
Maybe that whole.
But, 4 and 12 means every foot, you're going to raise 4 inches. So us making that a 4 and 12 is going to result in a very minor change.
It's not though, because it's sloping into a 5 and 12, which is almost parallel to a 4 and 12. So it's not a very minor change. And we've seen this on several projects, and Amanda and I are both architects, so we're very familiar with how that goes. And I'm not saying that just switching it out is going to be a problem, but it could aesthetically be a problem, and it's something that we would want to see to make sure the slope is compliant and still looks appropriate.
For the record, I'm not a licensed architect. Sorry. Don't get me in trouble with everybody.
1 3/4. How's that? But a question for, really, I guess, for Lydia as well. That central piece that goes from a 312 to a 512, what if they made it a 412 the whole way?
Right. I think there's plenty of solutions.
Fine.
It's just
Yeah.
that
No, we're
has
not
to
trying to
be
design the
compliant.
building for
Right.
you, but, I mean,
We
that's
just
a
have to stick
potential,
within-
without it kind of,
There's
So-
no reason to have that 5 there, because the 6s break it.
The crickets are fine,
Before.
but we need to rework this section of the roof because it's not a cricket. So that it exceeds 3 and 12. So we'll do that. We'll come up with something that, we think looks good.
Question, were you guys aware of the 312 issue before?
I was not.
he's going to say no whether he
That
likes
was not, that wasn't something that we discussed at DRC, so it's just.
It's in the-
Some of these things are new, and that's fine. We'll fix them. These are the types of adjustments that we make routinely all the time, so that's.
So is somebody keeping track of the things?
I have not.
I am.
Because I had the board with, the clubhouse roof cut out, the dormers. Yeah.
While you're on this roof,
You talk
and we're
about
looking
the-
at the AC.
Yeah, go ahead, good.
The board and batten you see right here on this one, do you think that's too wide? And the reason I ask is because I know we changed that to 16 inches on center. The clubhouse, I do not recall off the top of my head if we changed that from 24 to 16.
That looks wider.
It almost does look wider, and I don't see a lot of 12 inches on center. I see mostly 16 or 24, and we can do whatever you guys want, but I
There's a
just
lot of
didn't know
12s.
with the elevations here on the apartment buildings, if you guys thought that looked appropriate, or if you would like to see it go down.
I already got lost again.
Well, it just ended. So we get to
All right, everybody go home.
go back to the,
The roof plan?
well, go to the cutout of the AC and the,
Do we want to finish answering his question?
about the
About
board and
more than
batten.
Yeah, 16 versus 24?
Well, no
Versus 12.
24.
Well,
So we know the 24 is not, but I didn't know if the apartment building board and batten spacing looked okay to you guys, or if you want that tighter.
that's this one right here.
That's correct.
Still looks kind of wide.
Let me ask, if we go to the, one of the sections, like through the staircase, if you could give us the, I don't know where those are, but I think it was still really bad. There, okay. What size are those doors?
Those doors, they're just going to be a typical 80-inch tall, 3-foot wide.
So then that board and batten spacing is more than 16 inches.
So I imagine, I should say this, on the front elevations, we changed it to 16 inches on center. On the stairwell section you see right here, it is still at 24 inches on center. Just thinking out loud, 24, 20, well, honestly, if you got 16 plus 16 is 32.
And you have a 3-foot door with casing on it.
Yeah.
So I don't,
It looks like it's still wider on this, I agree, so. That was,
So as you can see, the theme is we need some updated drawings to be able to.
But again, I just.
Know what's
are
going
we-
on.
Is 16 agreeable, or are you saying?
I think 16 could be agreeable, but I don't believe all your drawings are drawn as 16.
Right.
I think a lot of them look too
I'm
wide.
100% sure that the elevations on the front rears are 16 inches on center on the apartment buildings, but not the clubhouse.
Well, how wide are your windows?
3 feet.
So they're not 16.
that's the side.
He's saying the sections are wrong.
No, the front elevation
Oh,
of
the
the
front.
buildings, if the windows are 3 feet wide,
The clubhouse?
not
or
the clubhouse, go to the
the other-
apartment building.
Apartment, building A,
Pick any one you want.
Pick a building.
Any building.
any building.
So if those are, like, the ones where they're centered in the gable end and you can see you've got, if that's a 3-foot wide window, those are not 16 inches on center.
Are you sure it's a 3-foot wide window?
Gotta need that for egress.
Well, yes, you need a 3-foot window for egress, but.
I'm just saying, I think 16 could look good. I just don't believe that these drawings are drawn to be 16 inches, which is part of why we're still having the reaction that they're too spread apart.
I'll be all right with 16.
And
At the very least, it's inconsistent between the pages.
And the clubhouse and the building.
All right, well, let's move on from that. It sounds like we need to revise it, make sure it's all consistent and confirm all that.
Okay, so now Charlie's thing was, are we okay to move to Charlie's AC unit section? Charlotte, please?
We dealt with the architects, now you gotta deal with the AC guy.
We're not done.
I know, we'll get
She
back
still
to
has
you. This
more,
is a
yeah.
commercial break.
This is a
If you
pause.
can go to the, well, there's your rooftop drawing, but I'm looking at the
section
height
through
of
it.
the cutout of it.
If anyone to my left, other than Charlie, has any comments, please feel free.
No, I said 16 on the center for me is
Okay.
fine. I think
Michael,
that
what's
that
your
makes
feelings
sense.
over there?
I like that, so I'm good.
And I'm okay with 16. Let's just be clear with what we want from them.
You're showing units at 33 inches tall. You're showing a parapet at 42 inches tall. Actually, before I get into the measurements, this is a cutout. This parapet railing will go on the sides as well.
Correct.
That's correct.
There'll actually be like roof on the sides that screens.
Just come down into the roof.
Well, yeah.
It's not tall enough at 42. And I'm gonna tell you, I'll tell you why in a minute. I know that, but, you do not want to build a 42-inch wall and go to put those AC units in and have them visible, because they will shut you down. That is one of the things that's very, very much a no-no. We let a couple buildings get away with it and it looks horrible. You have 33-inch tall units. Let's assume that's correct, even though refrigerant's changing and dimensions are changing. They have to be put on, at the very least, 4x4s on the roof. They won't be sitting directly on the roof. So now you've got another approximately 6 to 8 inches. So you're talking 33 inches plus 8 inches, now you're up to 41 inches with a 42-inch parapet. That's way too close to risk on. So I strongly suggest, for your own benefit, I don't even think we need to make it a requirement, but I strongly suggest you bump those up to 48 inches so you make sure that, and there is a little bit of, when you're looking from the ground, it blocks it, but just for your own benefit, I'd hate for you to build those at 42 and have an issue.
Okay.
So technically, that note says height to be above HVAC equipment, verify with manufacturer, but we will make sure we do that, do the research, figure out exactly what the equipment is, and adjust the wall accordingly. So
Yeah. If they're-
48 inches should definitely cover it, but we can take
Yeah,
it.
if they're going with, most of your new con is Lennox residential units. If they're going with Lennox, they're going to be actually 37 inches high. If you're going with Carrier, they're going to be in that 33 range. And that's, guys, when you go to put them on, it's going to be the new refrigerant. So we don't even know, in the industry, we don't even know what some of those dimensions are. But if you make a good faith effort,
So is there a dimension for whatever the unit is, like how much that wall needs to be above it?
no, it
Is there
just needs,
something that-
it needs to make sure that it's not visible from
I know,
the ground.
but to give them direction as far as like, needs to be minimum 6 inches above the unit or whatever it is.
As far as I'm concerned, it could be 1 inch above the unit.
Yeah. Plus the
but keep-
4x4s, plus the roof slope, if that roof is sloped a little bit in there.
Technically,
and-
unless you're in a 4-story building and you're across the street, you're never going to see these. But we will get them up high enough so that it's not even a concern.
That's what the veterinary building said, and we can see that today, so.
Yeah.
I just don't want, it's become serious enough to the town that they will actually stop construction until you fix it. But yeah, because there are no rails put in there, or 4x4s, or whatever you may end up doing. Because you're gonna have to hurricane strap them down, there's a lot of stuff for.
You can add 6 inches very easily to it. Might as well do it up front instead of worry about it down the road.
Yeah,
Agreed.
Can we look on that same point at the side elevations, please, of any of the buildings?
Okay.
Not the clubhouse, but the apartment buildings.
Oops.
So where is, what, if you look at the rear or the rear elevation of the buildings, and then, I guess maybe we should start there and then we can get to the sides. If you could flip one more. So it looks to me like that parapet wall sticks up beyond the side gables. And it doesn't show up anywhere as any type of visual on the side elevations. So what are you planning for that?
I mean, to be honest, until I look at the section, I can't tell you exactly where it's going to be, but
It's above the ridge, though.
it's going to be above the ridge of that, the top of the parapet, potentially,
Can we go
yes.
back to the other
But
view?
in general, she's just saying it's not shown.
The one showing the rear elevation.
Unless it's blocked.
It's not. It's higher than those
No,
roofs.
you were on the right.
It was just one sheet up from.
Yeah, it was where you were before. Yeah, wrong way.
More than likely, it was just a missed detail on the.
Yeah, right.
There you go. There it is.
The issue I have, though, with that is that the two of the buildings, 3 and 5, I believe, the short end of the building is facing 170. I think that you should, it's up to you how you want to handle it, but from my perspective, I do not want to see that tacked on parapet wall from 170. So if you could raise the gable on the ends to have the ridge of the gable higher than the parapet, or you can put the parapet down lower in the roof or something.
Or
but-
you can put it back further. I don't know how far you would have to put it back so that the sides of the, like the walls of, can see all the parapet wall. But I'm not sure that would be practical.
And I don't know how everybody else feels, but I don't think usually when we have the parapet walls, and it's not like an architectural parapet wall, it's really just kind of tacked on.
So can we go to the site plan real quick for this discussion? And I think it shows on there where these are located, perhaps. I'm hoping, yeah, it kind of does. So it's really small on here, but you can see how these mechanical wells are all positioned to the rear of the building. But the only one that there are, I don't want to say the only one, there are a couple that could potentially be seen from 170, the ones that face
Buildings
plan
3 and 5.
north-south instead of plan east-west.
Yeah, 3 and 5.
3 and 5, and we're going to be talking about the ends of those buildings too.
Just especially if we're raising the parapet to make sure that the equipment is screened. I just want to make sure we don't see that parapet from the front elevation. And if you can please draw it in, whatever it is, if it's visible from the front and you're going to try to, argue perspective that makes it okay, please do show it in elevation, truly to how it's.
So
intended.
adding the parapet walls to the side elevations of the building.
Yes, and preferably below the ridge, if we can raise the gable or
Yeah,
something to get it.
preferably adding them to the side elevation means you can't see them on there and we don't have to do anything.
While we're on, well, unless you have any other roof or AC, while we're on those two specific buildings, 3 and 5, I think there were some issues with, I think there are meters or service things on that side, on 170. And that is our HCOD, so that's our main view.
Yeah.
And those do need to be moved. And
So,
Move the screen, I mean, this is an electrical, and this is the meter panels.
this is Highway 170, what we're here to discuss.
I'm going to take this one too. So thank you. So obviously we're going to work with the local utility company and they typically provide a plan about a lot of times they have a lot of say in where the meters go, definitely where the transformers go, but probably we'll be able to work with them and move them away from the side facing the building. That design that's a placeholder on our design because the final location of them is typically the electrical company has some input on that.
And we have input as well.
Yeah. So we're basically, what I'm saying is I think you were gonna have to look at that, but I think we can move them to a different location. What if you put them there and you put up a screen wall and like landscaping in front of it and stuff like that? Is that
Here's my
something you've
thought on
accepted?
this as a non-architect, okay? We're dealing with apartment buildings, dealing with mechanicals that oftentimes are on the ground, not up on the roof. The meters end up on the end because all of the balconies and so on are there.
Right.
What if we had them make it look like it was a front courtyard? Like the front of a house with a front brick courtyard or something like that, that you would see.
I think if it was designed and not just stuck on there.
We're tasked, like we said before, we're tasked with making sure this building presents itself, no matter which side it is, presents itself like it's the front of the building. If you were CVS, you'd be really pissed at us right now,
Yeah.
because we're dealing with that with them.
So when you, tell me that again, what you're suggesting about the courtyard. Can you elaborate a little bit more on how that would block the actual panel? Are you like building a
well, the
wall
panel-
up or?
Well, like, I think what he's saying is if you built out a wall, like a courtyard, and the panel was behind there, you wouldn't see it from the road.
That didn't look like a service yard, you know.
Not a service yard, but like an actual architectural feature of the building.
Like if you're walking up
Not
to
an
a house
afterthought,
and it has
not
an
a-
enclosed courtyard up front type.
Like an intentional piece of
Maybe like
architecture.
it's probably going to be a 6-foot high brick wall, more or less.
So the electrical company, I think they require like a 3-foot clearance and access to them in front, so it'd have to be stood off. from
For
the
it
building.
to look like a feature, it needs to be stood off much further than 3 feet. Because it needs to feel like it's a courtyard that you could occupy if you're to pursue that direction.
Okay,
Does that
so
Not to say this is
I
the
don't,
answer.
I'm not exactly understanding of like what the courtyard, what that means, what that feature is.
I think what we're all saying is it cannot feel like you took a service yard fence and put it 3 feet away from the meter and stuck it onto the front of the building, because this is the
lattice
front.
work
Or lattice work or whatever. It cannot feel as though it is a service yard. If you have to have the panels here, it needs to be designed into the architecture. That is up for you to determine, but it feeling like a service enclosure of any kind would not be an acceptable solution. I think what Commissioner Whitmore was suggesting was that if you were to think of it like it was a entertaining courtyard, a front courtyard, that's actually a space that you would spend time in, not to say that that's how you would use it, but that it's far enough off the building that it feels like a feature and it's intentional, that courtyard wall could act as the screen from 170 without it feeling like you have just tacked a service yard straight to the building on
Well, I
170.
didn't propose to take a service yard straight to the building, so that was not planning on doing that.
No, we're saying as,
Just saying
we're
not
just
to do
giving you an
that.
idea of what's not.
That sounds good.
Yeah, think of
well, that's gonna take a little creativity, so.
Think of it like you own the place and you have an outdoor seating group and you want it kind of privatized, that type of thing. But yeah, you're gonna have to get a little bit creative. Unfortunately.
Yeah, and maybe moving it would make that easier to accomplish as well. So we'll look at both possibilities. But you're right, it is hard to put them on like the back or the building because of all the porches and everything. It's
Yeah.
like, there's not a lot of
I
room there.
understand. Can there be, and I'm just gonna throw it out there, but I don't know this the right answer or how to do it, but a pedestal where they all the units are on one thing, and you make a little kiosk, not a kiosk, but a little thing.
Standalone.
Roof and a cute little detail or something.
Standalone service yard?
Standalone something.
Like that's detached from the building? Haven't done that before, but.
I haven't seen
I don't know that they
We'll
would
look at some
allow it.
options.
Well, I know that I've worked on some buildings recently, and I know that Whitmer Jones Kiever has worked on some projects with me that we have a standalone meter bank. So, anyway,
I think that would be very difficult and be very expensive for the
Well,
owner. Yeah.
we're just trying to give you ideas, and you have to come up with the solutions and be creative. I'm just letting you know what things happen in real life works.
So if we keep it on the building and design the courtyard, would that be acceptable?
We'd have to see it. I mean, it would need to look intentional, like Lydia was saying. I mean,
It still has to look like the front of the building. So if you make it look like the front and like it's not a service yard, I think we're all open to however you want to interpret
Yeah,
that.
I feel like I have enough information to come back with a proposed solution. So, it might be putting them all on the other end of the building that doesn't face 170.
And that's one element of that
We'll have time to look at it.
elevation. No, I'm going to let the architect do it.
I just had a
Lydia, you're
question.
the architect. Go ahead.
I was obviously not part of the DRC meeting, but I did see from the notes that there were some discussions about not having, non-operational shutters, which I didn't know if that was in reference to these Bahama shutters that are over panels and not windows, or if that was in reference to a different feature that used to be on the building.
I believe it's these shutters.
It was in reference to these, and it was inconclusive, our discussion at the DRC meeting, and we kind of said we would talk about it at this meeting, because we can take them off and just make it normal siding there.
I don't think you can, because it has to, on the sides that are not facing 170, you could do that, but on the sides that are facing 170, just a blank siding, unarticulated wall would not be appropriate.
Right, yeah, so we added them because we were trying to add some detail to that elevation. And we discussed it for a little while, if my memory serves me correctly, at the DRC meeting, and said that, we would have a discussion about it at this meeting. So is there some comments that you have about that approach, or?
I think I'm open to you keeping Bahama shutters that are over fake panels on the sides that don't face 170, but I do have concerns that that's the front of your building and it really doesn't have fenestration on it.
This, I understand, and you guys have laid out the criteria, is that any face of the building that faces 170 is the front of the building. That is not a takeaway that I took away from the DRC meeting. It's something we had been put to task. Maybe I missed something that was said in the meeting. I don't think so, but I just, I almost feel like, I hope you're not frustrated with us for presenting this to you. I did not understand that was the expectation,
Yeah.
So we didn't do that because, I didn't understand it. So, and I don't think I don't think T did either.
And to be fair, commissioners, by my memory of that meeting, we were so focused on the stormwater and the trees and all that this may have been neglected. So I feel like they have to meet what we're tasked with, but I think maybe a little bit of leeway on the fact that they don't have it drawn right now.
Yes.
Yeah, so I think what would be productive to have a conversation about is what do we have to do to these two buildings that the sides face 170, to get them up to snuff, if some things need to change. These are bedroom and bathroom walls that are on the end of these buildings, because that's just, that's what the floor plans look like, I believe, if you look in there. That window is above the headboard of a bed, and these panels can't be big windows because I believe they're inside of a bathroom.
That could make for an interesting ride down.
Yeah.
Behind the Bahama shutters, are those bedroom windows?
There's nothing.
Nothing.
behind them.
They're bathrooms.
Those are the best.
So they're panels that are trimmed, like trimmed out like a window and covered with shutters. Yeah.
We're saying that's not acceptable.
I think it's a little bit, like, fake shutters to me are not really appropriate, but I could understand it for the side elevations. I just feel like for the front elevation of what is seeing 170 to have almost no actual fenestration is a challenge. But if you guys are okay with it, I mean, it's everybody's decision. I just think some amount of like a real window on 170 would be helpful.
Okay, maybe let's do this.
Yeah.
Let's go to the garage building for a second, because that's a lot easier one to show them how to make changes on it, and then come back to this, and maybe that'll help us all.
Well, I feel like on the garage one, y'all cleaned it up, so less is more, so
Well,
thank you.
You see that bottom elevation of the garage? The one building that's facing 170, it can't look like that.
Okay.
You could keep, my opinion, okay, as one of 6 here, is keep the center door, maybe a couple of fake windows, even with Bahama shutters or something, and then move the doors for the other two around to the sides, so you still have rentable space. But then that makes it look like the front of a small building.
I agree. I agree.
Yep.
There you go.
I get.
So that kind of gives you an idea. I don't know what it looks like on the others, but that just kind of gives you an idea of a quick, dirty fix to make that look like the front of a building.
And I think that's
You want,
it for
you
that.
want fake shutters on
That's it
there?
for that.
You say put some fake shutters on there?
Yeah, like maybe
The
some
like
closed
they did
window
on the-
shutters or the Bahama windows that may help come up with
Tie
a
'em all
solution to
together.
the other ones.
Yep.
I think if we are to entertain just Bahamas on 170, I would ask that the angle be set very close to vertical so that you're not really seeing the panel, and that it be sized so that it covers the whole panel.
I think that's a good compromise.
Can they
That
like
way,
paint somebody looking
You're
at
not
it?
driving by and like seeing up into it that it's panels.
Think we can do that?
All right.
So back to the other one.
Is this the grand finale? Are there more comments too? Just curious. It's obviously open, so you don't have any comments.
That's a loaded question. Are you tied?
Get my confidence up.
Well, you had said when you and I were talking individually, Amanda, that you felt that the garage should have it look that way on both ends.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that the garage, I mean, just for consistency's sake, if it was the same on both ends, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. It could be just the ones that face.
And it's only one garage building.
Garage too, right?
Garage 2, as long as that one is taken care of in garage 4. I was just saying for consistency's sake,
Oh, yeah.
so that you have the same setup everywhere, that it all looks the same, then do the others, but I mean,
Garage 2 and 4.
they're the ones that we see.
Probably I'll move one door, we'll move one door to the front, and I might just make that back storage unit like a double
5 by
size
10.
one,
Whatever you want to
and
do,
eliminate that other door, and then it'll look exactly like you described, so.
whatever you want to do.
Okay, so if we finish that, do we need to go back to the other buildings where we
Yeah,
had?
take us back, Charlotte, to the end unit.
The Bahamas shutters.
Any of the end ones, yeah.
You passed it, it was back a little.
Nope. There you go. Is that it?
That's a different one.
That's a different one.
Building B and that.
Type C and type A are what we need.
That's
Because
correct.
building 3 is a C and building 5 is an A. Because that B would be a lot easier to make look like the front.
There's a couple more there, maybe
Two.
C or A. C or A would be.
So
The
we're
electrical
looking for-
meters are fine on the side.
We're looking for left
They don't face
on
us that
C,
This is it.
Yeah, this is it.
left elevation, so the right-hand side of this screen. And then
Left
A,
side.
This is left C.
then A is gonna be the right-hand side.
So it's this one here.
Is it possible to flip-flop that? Because it does just aesthetically look even less like a front elevation with the little shed.
Is that it?
Something else that dresses that up a little bit.
That little room is the fire sprinkler riser room.
What about a fake door on the front of it? Make it look like a front door to a, would that work?
I mean, we
Really
could put a
needs
real door in it, but, yeah.
Fire chief might want it.
If you can put a real door, even if it's like frosted or whited out or whatever, but that has some glass on it that makes it look like it's a real front door, that would help.
So those are just on the two facing Highway 70, correct?
That may be enough, don't you think, or do you?
Yeah.
But leaving the Bahama shutters?
I think it depends on how you guys feel about it. I would prefer to see fenestration. If you guys are open to not seeing real windows, then I would suggest the Bahama shutters be deeper and longer, so that you really don't see much of the panel behind it.
Yeah, I would make the compromise with that.
Everybody's open to that.
So back to the sprinkler room, so you want a door facing, just on that, facing us right there. Now, I just have a feeling glass will not be looked at just because the standpoint somebody could break into it pretty easily.
Sure.
I got a feeling that might not be the best
It
thing.
can
can be a
just not
fake.
look like a utility door. You can interpret that.
Well, that's where I'm going with it too. Don't make this the door that the fire department goes in. Just make it a
But does that door have to be
ornamental.
metal?
I don't know.
You know what I'm saying?
Riser room, does it have
Yeah,
to
like
be
it doesn't
metal?
even have to open.
Yeah, your riser room door is probably going to be painted red and it's going to say riser room all over it and so on. But if you have a fake
It'll have a sign on
front
it.
door,
That's the issue, though, there's gonna be signage.
it's going to be on the side.
Typically,
There has to
you know, I
be-
haven't done a project here, but yeah, they make us paste big red letters all over it. So.
And arrows pointing to things sometimes, depending
If
on
that
the
could be not
location.
on the front elevation. That would be great.
I understand, you know,
That's
we're
why
gonna
I'm
have to have
concerned
a little
with-
give and take here.
Yeah, that one's gonna be difficult.
But don't they have the doors on the sides right now?
But that's different, but I'm saying is wherever the door is, the entry point, I think is where some signage is gonna have to be.
But if
So
it's
now,
green and red, then would it be better to not put it on 170 if you're gonna have flashing red letters that say?
I'm saying not put, if you put the door on 170, you're gonna have some type of,
No, it's not a real door.
That's
Fake
just a
door,
fake.
fake door.
Yeah, the actual door
Okay.
doesn't face 170.
then we're fine, sorry, I was misunderstanding.
You're still, when you're
I
driving
wouldn't put
down
the one that you need the
170,
letters on 170.
when you're driving down 170, you're still going to see that red door, but at least we get a little bit
Why
of
are you
a
saying it's red?
fire.
So, it doesn't have to be red,
You're going to see the yellow door.
it's done white, done black.
It won't be entirely red.
Look at the color of the siding, it disappears.
Okay.
I think we can.
You think that's a good
I'm
compromise?
fine. I don't know if we need it, but I think that's gotta work for
But let me be clear for them. If they do the fake door, where did we leave them with the Bahama shutters?
We are doing them, but, well, I'm agreeing with Lydia.
I just want to be clear to that.
fake though.
I'm agreeing with what Lydia suggested on the Bahama shutters. Anybody else?
I'm all
Michael,
right.
do you have an opinion?
I do, but
I would like to hear it.
I'm fine with what you guys are suggesting. I think it's a little silly to ask for fake doors and fake things. Make it real or don't make it. I mean, we've already considered putting a courtyard on that side. Let them figure out how to make a design in this with a courtyard on that whole facade on the ground floor. Why are we trying to put a fake door on something? That's silly. Asking them to put a fake door on it. That's my opinion that I'm giving to you.
So if, like you said, if that was a courtyard effect, that would eliminate needing to do the door.
Well, it still needs to look like a front.
Well, I think it still can, depending on the articulation of whatever that courtyard is. I mean, I can't decide what that looks like, that's not my job. But-
Understood, but
but
when's
they
the
can
last time
articulate
you
it.
walked up to the front of a house and there was no door?
A side yard house.
Yes.
Okay.
Charleston, and all the streets in Charleston. Not all of them, but a lot of them.
A lot of them.
Good point.
When we bring these back, they will look more like the front of the building. I promise.
And you only have two.
So,
What about your view on the shutters, or the Bahama shutters? Do you think, as far as the fenestration of nothing there versus something? Even though we know that those are false areas.
Even if those are false, I think it's fine. Yeah.
You're fine with,
Yeah, I'm
like
fine
how
with
we
it.
were saying with the angle being. minimal.
Right, absolutely. I mean, if you looked at the side elevation, those were angled and it looks nice. It was a nice presentation.
We need to look at the right-hand side of a type A building. Because that's the other one that faces the highway.
Should be,
Is that it?
So
Are these the same as A2? Because it says similar, but it,
It's pretty much the exact same elevation as we just looked at for the type C.
well,
I mean,
it
this is
says A1.
So A1 and A2 are the exact same side elevations. The only thing when we say similar could be like the sprinkler closet might be on the opposite side or something like that of the building.
Yeah, that's probably why it's A2, because I'm seeing the sprinkler on the
The C
road.
elevation is the one we just looked at.
Oh,
So this is the A1
Oh.
and A2 type building right here.
gotcha. So you just provided one elevation for both types of buildings because they look the same?
They're the exact same, pretty much. I mean,
Oh, yeah, it even says here, A2 left side similar.
I
Okay.
just take, just for whatever it's worth, when something says similar, that doesn't mean the same. And so if you don't provide the drawing, it needs to be literally the exact same, or I need a drawing so that we can review that, please.
So it's going to be this one.
And we're looking at the right side of this building.
Well, if you look at the
That's A2.
showing the FDC towards the road,
Wait,
so it'll be the same.
Okay, gotcha.
It'll be the same with the fire room on the. So it's the same as C, from what I can see.
See?
Yes.
Which would also be the same as
That one.
this. So we have the electrical panels, we've got the riser room, and the shutters we settled. We just need to do some work on this to make it look more like the front of the building. I mean, other features that add fenestration or, might add some visual interest are like little metal shed roofs, like little short guys, things like that. I don't know if any of that resonates with you or would improve this. I sit down and think about it for a while. We can come up with some other things. I just want to try to go in the right direction, that's just getting closer and not further away. So,
What about, there was a comment from the town about the brick height. Before they had different levels and now they've made it consistent, which they did what we asked. But the town had mentioned they wanted it higher. Does anyone have an opinion if it should be higher or if this is an appropriate level?
I think the town, I don't want to speak for them.
It was just in her slideshow that said something about higher.
I thought that they thought that was a comment that originated from you guys, but I don't know for sure. Do you
Alan, you
agree?
mentioned something about that.
Well, either,
Not aware of the DRC comment.
Oh, okay.
That discussion, I was not at that meeting, but it seemed to be that there was a desire for consistency on all the elevations, not necessarily that the brick needed to go to the second floor.
I think it would help proportionally if it went up to the second floor, but I understand if it doesn't. At least it's consistent. Yeah.
Great.
the only thing I started to think about when that height was, now that we've been talking about this courtyard effect, it might actually help tie in the courtyard because the courtyard would be tall and then you have the brick element. But that's a creative design thing you need to think about.
All right.
Okay, so where do we want to go from here, guys? Because we need to wrap this up.
Is there any other concerns? Commissioner Paul?
Just that I think we were missing perhaps some building B elevations. If y'all can just go through and make sure that we have all unique elevations, please.
So let's be clear here. A2 is, we need to have the elevations for the front and side. That needs to be distinguished from A1.
If it's actually identical, then that's fine, but I wouldn't note it as similar. I
Okay.
think if we can just say that it's truly the same.
Guys, I don't know if there's going to be consensus on this or not, but I'm thinking this through with the conditions, and I know we want to go through everything that we did. Hopefully somebody was writing it down.
Charlotte's got it.
Dan's writing. Because, again, I don't know if there'll be a consensus on this or not, but my feelings are because The elevations at the highway having to look like the front of buildings was not called out at DRC. I'm a little predisposed to going forward with this with the understanding that staff makes sure that what we've conveyed has been done, to not hold them up. If it was brought out in DRC and they didn't do it, I would have a totally different feeling.
Yes,
Please.
go ahead.
I would, I appreciate you saying that, Charlie. I would definitely appreciate that if that's the, others agree with that. And I would also say, and I'm sure that you've heard developers say a lot of things, so I don't know what this is worth, but we would be very happy to comply with these comments. There's kind of two classes of comments here. Ones are very simple, like they're like a directive, something that we can easily change. And the other ones are like more creative, like you have to design something a little differently. So the ones that require design are the ones that you guys want to see the most, because we could go left with it or we could go right with it. I don't know if there's any avenue for us to, share those with you or have dialogue with you about those through staff, but we would be open to, having that communication and making sure we work to a resolution that is mutually acceptable to all of us. So you just can't, you just have to do a little work before you can represent those more design demanding.
Well, in the
aspects of
past, you've done it where
conversation.
you and Lydia met with.
We've met, but I guess in order to move this forward, he's saying, or how this would need to move forward is if we were okay with, or maybe you were saying with the recommendations at staff level, but we wouldn't be necessarily comfortable with staff having to make those final decisions. But we can't vote today saying that we recommend, use these recommendations, and then me and Lydia go to them later and it's like you've already voted, right? I mean, you can't.
Well, here's
Like,
the practical.
we could absolutely sit down and talk with them, and we've done it a million times before with other people, but I just don't know how that works with a vote.
Well, it comes down to a trust level of staff, but it also comes down to, keep in mind, when final DRC happens, 3 of us are on that DRC. And so if they have not worked with you in good faith, if we go down this route, if they haven't worked with you in good faith, if you they hadn't come up with a design that y'all are happy with, the 3 of us at DRC could
Is that how
keep that from final.
Part of the resubmittal was responding to the comments that they received at DRC, and that's in your packet, so they absolutely did a good.
No, we're talking about final DRC. If we were to approve this with the conditions that they make changes that we haven't seen, and then they meet with them, if we don't feel like they've made those changes at DRC, we can hold them up.
If you're voting, right now you're voting for approval of the certificate of appropriateness. You can make it subject to conditions
And that one of
that they can submit to us as staff, and we can consult with you on whether they're meeting all the conditions that you approved of them.
That's what I want to make sure is that
Yes.
we're doing it the right way as far as approvals and things, and we're not messing something up.
Right, you could approve subject to the following conditions, and then their resubmittal will have to meet those conditions, and we will, as staff, we will coordinate communication with you to make sure that they have met those conditions.
Commissioner Denmark, in situations like where, in the past, when we had so many things and we haven't seen all of the drawings, we've suggested the applicant tables it and comes back. Is that off the table for us?
I mean,
No,
they
that's
have to request that, and
There's a lot of changes.
And that's why we need opinions from you guys. Like, if you're uncomfortable with staff recommendations or staff recommendations, or not recommendations, but approval conditions, and me and Lydia, or you all and Lydia, or whoever, and meeting with them, like if that just doesn't sit well and you'd rather see it back, then we should probably think about tabling it.
Well, they have to consider it.
They have to consider it.
Right.
But,
It just seems like there's a lot here.
and if you're uncomfortable and you're uncomfortable, I'm uncomfortable, I don't know how they are.
Okay.
That's why we vote.
And so this meeting's like is this a once a month meeting?
Yes.
So if we table it, then the next meeting will be right before Christmas?
Well, you'd have to get your,
It's just,
Revised drawings in by the deadline for submittal, which is
When-
probably in a week.
The deadline for
No, the
submittal
deadline.
is today
Yeah.
for.
for the December 18th meeting.
so it would be January.
For what it's worth, I have a project under construction here. I have another one I'm working with Dan on, and I have a client that is doing another one in Bluffton. So the last thing I want to do is do something that's going to offend you guys, because I have plenty of projects that is business for us moving forward. So from the standpoint of us doing whatever we can to keep you guys happy, that's what I want to do from an architectural standpoint. So I'm not going to take any of these comments and try to not do anything you guys provide. So just something I wanted to say.
Thanks, T, and I feel the same way. I think the way, so I'm gonna just have a little discussion with you guys. Thank you, and I'll try not to make it too long. So I think the way I understand the process is we have to get this COFA approval, and then we have to get, it has to be like confirmed that it still coordinates with our development plan. And we have to get some type of approval or sign off around that before we can submit our building plans for building permit, which then has a review period of 4 weeks plus comments. So maybe like another couple of months. And so if you add up the submission deadlines today, so we can't submit, well, so we wouldn't hit that deadline. So our meeting would be in January. Then there's the other approval after that meeting, which might take a couple of weeks, then submitting our building plans. All of a sudden, before we have building permits, we're out like getting in the over 4 month range. And we've got Lee Contracting on site right now, like getting ready to put utilities in, and we'd probably be ready to pour concrete in 2.5 months, potentially. So that is kind of scary for me because I have a bank loan and I have investors and I have a construction schedule that I have to hit. So that will put me off schedule pretty significantly.
Is there
But I
any way
also
we
understand
can do
your.
concurrent DRC, like, do they have to wait to get the COFA before they can do that last development plan?
They have an approved development plan.
Yeah, they've already.
So then what are they coming back in for after the COFA?
They can't get the permits till they have the COFA.
There's not a step after we give them the COFA before they go to building permit. It's COFA, building permit.
If this were to go forward tonight with conditions of approval, they would resubmit. In their resubmittal, they would include another, how they responded to the conditions. Staff would work with you to ensure that they've adequately addressed all of the conditions of approval. But once we're in agreement with that, we approve it, which is basically issuing a certificate of appropriateness. And that triggers them being able to submit for their building permit.
But there's no second meeting with the DRC.
Nope.
Like, this is
No,
the
that's
final
it.
meeting.
This is it.
Yeah.
This is it for COFA.
So I got the resubmittal of the conditions conflated with like a second DRC. That was my mistake.
No, I said it from up here. It was my mistake.
Oh, okay. So I guess, well, what I would ask is if you guys would consider, if you are comfortable that we will make these changes and staff will share them with you, and if you are willing to review them, we could make these conditions, or we can make an overarching condition that we have to address all the comments from the meeting today, and you need to review them. And if you're comfortable with staff, that staff would present those to you and share those with you, and staff would be willing to have the dialogue in that way. That seems to me like a way to do a conditional approval today and still make sure that we comply with everything that you asked.
Commissioners, let me suggest this, okay? And first of all, I want to reiterate, I wouldn't even be feeling the way I'm feeling if I felt we had appropriately conveyed and communicated to the applicant at DRC. I feel like we as DRC failed to communicate that this should be facing as a front of a building, no matter what the elevation was, towards Highway 170. We were so focused on the trees and the stormwater that did not get proper attention paid to it. I personally feel like it, I'll put it to you this way, if it didn't go that way, if it was addressed then, I wouldn't feel the way I'm feeling about this. I have faith and confidence that if we point a couple of experts, Amanda and Lydia, to review it, and that they're held to it by staff before it's issued, I'm confident that we have the tools to do that without delaying somebody for something that they didn't necessarily do wrong, in my mind. What I would suggest is to go ahead and do a motion, and the votes will tell us how we feel as the commission.
But, Commissioner Wetmore, that if we vote and we don't get the votes necessary, have we just denied them instead of letting them table? You're
That is
nodding
what that
yes.
is, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if we
And I'm worried
voted-
about that. And I'm also trying to understand the official process. So we approve this with conditions, and then you're going to designate 2 members to make sure that that they've met the needs that we've articulated.
If you're comfortable, I mean, we can respond to all of you as a commission and say, and that way you're all privy to the same resubmittal, how they.
I like that one.
And everybody,
I'm all right with that.
Yeah, I don't want it to be stuck on Lydia and me making.
Well, that's why I'm asking the question. Are we then having essentially a virtual meeting?
Through email?
Yeah. Is that something that's official and legal?
And I think, as you know, Katie Peterson, you used to.
Richardson's not here.
I think we have to ask this question.
Katie's always done it this way. She's got conditions of approval. She doesn't issue the COFA. There's a resubmittal made that she reviews. And if they addressed all of the conditions of approval, then they get a true approval in the issuance of a
the
COFA.
difference is we're re-involving the entire commission. Is that okay?
And that's why I'm a little uncomfortable with that, because essentially it is a virtual meeting. You're getting all of us, and then you're going to ask us to yay or nay. And I don't know if we're
not allowed.
I don't think we can do that. I don't think we can operate via email.
Then you would have to rely on staff to ensure that they adequately addressed your conditions of approval.
And there comes a certain time that we either trust our staff or we don't.
And Charlie, Commissioner Wetmore, I trust our staff. There's a lot here. And we all said that at the beginning, there's a lot here. I'm fine with that if the majority of us feel like we are letting go and we're giving it to staff.
I mean, there are, excuse me, but there are, the majority of them are, did they do it or didn't they do it? I guess somewhere it gets subjective would be when we're talking about the courtyard and the screening.
In the front of the building, right?
Right. But I'm confident that we could review and approve it. We've sat through this meeting, we've heard what the concerns are, and you're giving them a little bit of artistic license on how they're going to create courtyards, screening of the meters, screening of the riser room.
All right, well, we need to move on. So, can I just get everybody's temperature and where they're sitting right now so that we can make sure that we don't hurt them in any way?
Exactly.
So, Michael, what's your feeling?
Trust the staff.
Trust the staff.
Lydia?
I'm uncomfortable, but it's okay. It's not that I don't trust staff, I do. I think there's a lot of comments, but.
I'm exactly where she is.
I'm where you guys are, so we're kind of split. But, all right.
And I don't want to delay these guys,
I don't either.
but there's just a lot.
There's a lot. No, I agree. But we do trust staff, right? I mean, and assuming, would it be not appropriate if staff did have a question to reach out to Planning Commission? Or a member or two?
You're right about the Richardson maybe needing to be here, but I don't see a problem with it. I mean, if,
I would say if that happens, it should be to Lydia and Amanda. And that way it's not a majority of commission. It doesn't constitute an illegal meeting.
Right.
I don't want to do anything illegal.
Yeah, that's my concern.
It would have to be 3 or less.
right.
So Rich, do you want to be the third?
No, because I think what you've got 3 uncomfortables here. I think if it's Lydia, Commissioner.
I'll be a third.
Okay, thank you.
I'll be a third.
Some balance is what I was going to say.
No, I understand. I just was trying to think you were the one.
So you're
that was-
unbalanced?
No,
He's just trying to give it a little bit of, like,
I'm trying to give it a fair shake.
yeah.
Okay, do we have a list?
Yeah.
We do.
Okay.
Let me,
The motion will probably be along the lines of with the list that staff has previously read.
We can work through it right now and make sure it reads correctly.
I feel like Katie's back.
So my suggestion would be, let's identify the ones perhaps we want to eliminate of the staff recommendations, and then we can approve staff recommendations, identify the numbers that we feel are appropriate from the staff recommendation, including the determination regarding the lights, and then we can fill in the recommendations, the conditions that you have for tonight. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So for the staff recommendation 1, do we want to eliminate that and allow the response to the brick as presented tonight to remain? Okay. Let me see if I can do it this way. Great, as capable as Katie was. So I'm going to get rid of 1, and can I do that? Okay. The determination, we're going to get rid of number 2 as well. Is that okay?
Yes. Because we talked about the porches and patios and. Oh, that's cool. I didn't know you could do that.
I did.
So
Learning something, yeah.
we might want to talk about number 3 separately, as we discussed tonight. So should perhaps I just eliminate, strike through this one?
I think you should leave 3 there because I think that does the intent of.
Okay.
Yeah, agreed.
Okay, so
I agree.
okay,
And we're not talking inch measurements, you guys know. Yeah.
okay.
Can we add to that one that the parapet be on the sides and not visible from 170, please?
And say that again?
Show the parapet on the side elevation and have it not face 170, or be visible from 170.
You like that bracket?
Is that correct?
Is that correct? Side of elevation, okay.
Turn 4 to from.
And I think number 4, we all agree with the
Yes.
LED lights.
Leave it in.
And we know, this one, we know it's going to be Okeechobee Bluffs. All comments must be addressed, final development plan be approved prior to issuance certificate of appropriateness.
You want to add in that, or is it separate as far as town staff to consult with planning commission members? Or
I would make that.
Yeah, big separate.
Developer
separate.
to meet with appointed
Well,
commissioners.
I don't know that I don't think that we need to meet. I think that,
You're meeting with staff, and staff is consulting with us.
so if staff has an issue, a question, they could consult with us.
Well, I'd say this is a pretty simple task on our part.
Yeah, because like they said, there's a bunch of them that they can do easily. There's just a couple of items that we want to make sure. And if staff's, not sure, then they'll reach out.
So you don't have to change the
Well, you can
language of
send
that.
the new
It's just-
plans to the 3 of them for feedback.
Right.
Amanda? send the new plans to the three of you for feedback. I would be
Yes.
comfortable with that, not just,
Yeah, I thought they were going to do that. Yeah, yeah,
no, we're just making sure it's,
yeah, captured, okay.
I'm sorry, am I adding something to number 7?
upon review by appointed.
Or we just trust staff to send it and.
No, it needs to be a part of the, the condition, so that if, say, these two weren't here anymore, staff, and then another staff comes in, and then how are they going to know? Sorry, not
Are
to.
you getting rid of
No, I'm not trying to, I'm just, I'm just saying.
Just
saying.
appointed planning commissioners? Maybe?
Yeah,
Prior to approval or final approval or something.
including.
Of redesign.
Including sharing plans with the 3 commissioners.
Updated plans.
Thank you. Appointed.
Okay, and I do have that.
There, yeah.
Sharing updated plans,
Yeah.
sorry.
That's good, that's good.
Sign permits, so it looks like 3, 4, 5, 7, and 8. So this is where we get into tonight's conditions. So the first one I have, and Dan, you may want to back me up as I'm doing this too. The board and batten spacing was to be, as I understood, to be consistent
On
throughout.
all drawings.
Did you just say max of 16?
Max.
That's what I was about to say.
To be 16 inches on center.
On center, yep. Maximum. So if they decide to do less and it looks better, they can.
Is that correct?
Right?
Remove all dormers from buildings?
Yes, right? All of them. Yeah.
I would say if they want to come back with a different articulation of a dormer, I don't think they need to or want to, but if you did, it's not that you can't have a dormer,
Yeah.
it's just the way they're currently
Move,
shown.
yeah.
The clubhouse roof cut out.
Remove or revise dormers as discussed. I don't know.
So I'm not really
12
sure.
roof pitch.
So remove dormers?
If they agreed to that, that's.
Yeah, remove dormers or revise the dormers. You can just leave it open like that, and we'll do one or the other.
Okay, roof pitch.
Is that addressing the over the porch?
No.
Yeah, removing the 3 and 12 roof pitch.
So any 3 and 12 roof pitches need to be 4 and 12. Crickets are not the roof, it's a cricket, so those can remain.
To 412 or greater.
There's also the clubhouse roof cut out.
Except for crickets.
Revise the clubhouse roof cutout. And, I mean, that's going to be how they want to design it, but
Yep.
And,
Electrical panel.
yeah.
Okay, and I'm kind of going in order here of,
HVAC as well.
so we've got the parapet wall we've taken care of. Got the meter banks. So this, the meter banks that are shown on the fronts of the building
on the 170 elevations.
need to look,
Need to be moved or.
Yeah.
Yes, did you have a?
You could say cannot be visible from 170.
Okay.
Got to be a little more restrictive than that. because you could put a service yard around it and it's not.
Gotcha, okay.
I would say either relocated or appropriately screened with a
Architectural,
element.
yeah.
That was good.
That was a good word.
It's almost like they're architects here.
I'm not.
Architect.
You got that one, Amanda. You did all my.
I want on TV. Not this TV, though.
Speaking of which, we're gonna add a third floor.
The Bahamas shutters,
Oh, yes.
I would say the
Bahama shutters?
Yeah, how do you,
170 facing elevations need to present as fronts. One possible solution includes sizing and tilting the Bahama shutters to conceal the false panels behind them.
okay.
Other solutions are possible if they want to come up with something different.
Okay, let me start that again.
one suggestion.
Buildings 3 and 5 only?
Just the 170, yeah, 3 and 5.
I'm sorry, Commissioner DePaul, could you restate that?
Should we just say for buildings 3 and 5, the 170 facing elevation? I might suggest that we actually write this not specifically about the Bahama shutters, and then we can talk about Bahama shutters potentially.
Well, leave that, but in front of it,
Yeah,
put
leave it
elevation must be,
Well, because I guess what I'm getting at is I don't think that we should have Bahama shutters at all sorts of different sizes and angles on the other
They all need to be
elevations.
consistent.
So while the problem that we have is only on that elevation, whatever they choose to do, if it involves Bahama shutters, needs
Got
to
it.
happen on all of the sides.
but I did like what you said initially, where you said, the Highway 70 must appear to be front facing if Bahama shutters are used.
So if Bahama,
I think just start with on buildings 1 and 3 like you had, if that's okay. The Highway 170 elevations must appear as front facing elevations.
Front facing.
If the Bahama shutters are used, they should explore lengthening them or
it should be steeper, longer.
yeah. In order to conceal the false panels behind them from view.
And that should be consistent around the whole property.
Charlotte, I think you need to put that they should be steeper. They should. You need a B in there, I think, yeah.
Thank you. And
This must be consistent with through all buildings. You guys get what they're saying there, right?
Yeah, I think it should just be same.
Yeah, it'll be easier for your person to install them.
Maybe only stand off like 5 inches or something like that.
okay. The next one was the garage doors facing Highway 170, or
Yeah,
the,
so that's garage 2 and 4.
Must be.
4.
4, garage 4. Must be front facing. And how they do that.
I think that's a
However you-
fairly simple fix for them.
I mean, we talked about solutions, so it's just
I
however
would
you
say
guys
just
want to.
make sure you say the 170 facing elevation. So that,
On 170.
the 170.
must appear as front facing,
So that's implying that the 3 doors needs to change to a 1 door?
That is a solution.
That's a solution.
Yeah, I mean, if they come up with something different and it still appears to be front facing.
So building C, this is the riser room for,
I think we,
But I think that's covered with the articulation of
The meter banks.
meter
and the-
banks, like,
yeah, I think that one went away.
okay.
As you talked.
clarify that elevations A1 and A2 are the same in the plan set.
Similar, I think Lydia
Well,
was
yeah, we
talking
didn't
about.
like the word similar because they're not necessary.
Well, I think if you're getting the front-facing elevations to review, I don't know if you need to.
I think that there's a couple other elevations that are missing too. I think we need to, even though we're reviewing 170 specifically, we need all unique elevations of all buildings. And if they are the same, then please just call them A1 and A2, or however you want to label it, but not similar, but somehow possibly
A
different.
little confusing, yeah.
Commissioner Tinmark, all of the things that are listed in the DRC, are those conditions that should be included also? We didn't address all of them.
I'll ask staff, for the DRC, the lighting fixtures provided for the pool area, provide lighting fixture details including posts for all exterior lights to ensure
they have done
compliance.
that.
We have done that. We were talking about some elevations were not provided, so we've talked about that. There is a metal roof indicated in some locations. I saw there was standing seam somewhere written, or no? What was the metal roof?
There was an old comment, and we revised it on the drawings, and you asked us to, and I'm trying to figure, you asked us to write standing seam metal
It was
roof.
either standing seam or 5 feet, so they picked standing
To do
seam.
that.
So that's done.
that's addressed?
Yeah, I
Okay.
thought I saw it in your drawing.
It is on the drawing, yeah.
Generally, this is good to check, but generally they are checked off by staff before they
Yeah.
see us. So
Well, we
they're-
were still missing the elevations, yeah.
Thin brick siding to the second floor, we talked about that. Architectural, low country region, we've kind of talked about that with non-operable shutters and things like that.
And there was something about colors.
There was, but they have taken that color off of that elevation, correct? So they had one wall behind the screen porch, tell me if I'm wrong, that was painted a darker color that wasn't an approved color, but they've since revised that and that is no longer that color. It's the same as the rest of the building, correct?
The last one is fencing.
Rear garages, they've done that. Fencing proposed, provide details, and I'm sure those are in the landscape area, right? Fencing details?
They have provided that with the dumpster. And I don't believe that there's any other fencing
We're good.
shown on the plan.
Good? All right.
So,
So what else we got?
Dan, do you have anything else?
We already addressed the brick wrapping around the building.
We did. Yes. We're fine with it. It's
Architectural plan says needs to include all unique elevations. I guess that's our last one.
Yeah, we have that.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. So with that, someone want to make a motion?
I move that we approve with the application for COFA 0924-019322 with the conditions stated in the alternative motion with PC conditions, conditions 1 through 9.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Nope. Okay. We look forward to seeing the rest of it.
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
We got a little bit of work to do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 2, adoption of the 2025 Planning Commission meeting dates.
I have to go too, I think we get a bathroom break.
I think that everybody's probably okay with these. Anyone have a discussion on that?
No.
So may I have, it's a motion, right, to
I move to
Adopt.
adopt the meeting and application submission schedule as written.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Note, Charlie did not vote. He has walked away. Number 3, adoption of 2025 Development Review Committee meeting dates. Everyone okay with all of that? Do you have a motion?
So moved.
A
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Say aye. Aye. Charlie Whitmore is not present. And we've been waiting for you. And this is a discussion for amendments to the Town of Bluffton's Soloco, or not Soloco, but Southern Low Country Stormwater. I'm
Yeah.
trying to read off. Andrea.
Yes, I'm Andrea Moreno. I'm the MS4 program driver. I met a bunch of you. But thank you for having me. I appreciate your time.
We appreciate you waiting.
Well, no, you're good. So this is going to be a stark contrast from everything that you've talked about tonight. So, and feel free to like jump in and interrupt me if I get to anything too technical. It's habit, so just, I'll fix it. Basically, as Amanda mentioned, we are proposing amendments to our Southern Low Country Stormwater Design Manual and post-construction ordinance. And it is an appendices to the UDO. So when we provide these amendments to town council for adoption, it'll be adopted via resolution, which is why we're, instead of looking for a recommendation, it's purely discussion and feedback. So as we go through these, lay it on me. So kind of some background, just because I know you guys aren't, some of you are super familiar listening to Sam every week at DRC, but not super familiar with stormwater. So an MS4. So it's a municipal separate storm sewer system. Basically what that means is around here, we do not have a combined treatment for sewer and stormwater, right? They're separate. So our stormwater system does not receive any treatment before discharging into stormwater or into the rivers, okay? So the treatment that they receive ahead of time instead of going through a treatment facility is all of our BMPs or our best management practices. Now, when the regional board, Soloco Regional Board got together, they came up with the thought of standardizing, a set standard for stormwater design and guidelines. So what the result was our stormwater design manual. And this was adopted in September of 2021. And basically its purpose was to improve water quality through runoff reduction to the maximum extent practical, or MEP, and then prevent downstream stream bank and channel erosion, reduce downstream overbank flooding, and safely pass or reduce runoff from extreme storm events. So again, with some background, we are looking to better align ourselves with some of the other Soloco partners, namely Beaufort County, and also align with UDO language that was passed in, Dan, correct me if I'm wrong, April and May, I believe this year, that better supports stuff we're trying to do. And some of the language is like verbatim in the design manual as it is in the UDO, so that's just trying to match it. We're also trying to provide clarifications on implementation of stormwater practices, enhance our enforcement capabilities through our post-construction program of these pre-MS4 communities. And just as a reminder, we became an MS4, we as in the town, became an MS4 in 2015. So we've been doing post-construction inspection and maintenance of anything built after 2015. But through these edits, it'll give us enforcement of, well, anything pre-2015 pretty much. We're also promoting the use of better site design principles through credits towards meeting stormwater retention volume requirements. And we were hoping to establish a mechanism for stormwater retention volume fee in lieu. And then there's also just multiple housekeeping edits like Scribner's errors that were overlooked before they were adopted. And I'll get into each of these. So again, with the providing clarification on implementation of stormwater practices, just a couple examples. You know, that's been 3 years since it was adopted, and we're just trying to better align the intent of the manual with what's happening out in the field. Have a more realistic approach, I guess you could say. So one of the things that we're hoping to change is our 10% analysis. And what that is basically engineers, I was going to say developers, applicants are required to analyze 10% of the watershed from downstream of their site to show that this development isn't going to have any negative impacts on downstream properties, watersheds. There's also the requirement that sites detain, meaning hold, up to the 100-year storm. So basically prior to adoption of the manual, it was 25-year, just to give you a frame of reference. So sometimes it can be conflicting. So when we tell people you need to retain for the 100-year, it could actually mean that through that 10% analysis, it can be detrimental to the overall watershed. And obviously, that's not our intent, right? Our focus is on the watershed. So we have proposed amending the 10% analysis language so that if they can show through their analysis that detaining the 100-year is detrimental to the overall watershed, they don't have to do it. Okay. We're also, just as an example, amending design specifications for bioretentions or rain gardens to remove the seasonal high water table as a limiting factor so that these practices can be more widely used. As we know, our area, especially the sites that are left around here, are poor soils and a high water table, right? So it makes it pretty limiting what BMPs can be there, but we don't want people to say, oh, well, we have bad soils and we have a bad or high water table, so sorry, we can't do anything, right? So this is just a way to kind of meet in the middle, if you will, so that people are still having an opportunity to do these infiltration and filtration practices that we want to see. Okay, so then we're also going to, again, expand our post-construction program to encompass beyond MS4 communities. The 1991 Sediment Reduction Act basically stipulates that the state or an acting inspection agency can enforce maintenance of these communities that are basically built after 1992. It's always existed. Technically, the town has always had the capability of doing so, but without explicitly referencing it in our post-construction ordinance, it can, be a legal thing. So what this means is, again, we're looking at these pre-MS4 communities, Hampton Hall, Hampton Lake, the farm, pretty much everything in town that is having issues, right? So we are receiving some annual inspection reports. Hampton Lake and the farm do provide them, but with these manual changes, every community, including commercial, it's not just residential, will be required to submit them. What it means is that they'll just be kind of roped into our post-construction program, meaning that we will reach out and say, hey, everybody, because obviously they're not expecting this. You are now required to give us your inspection reports showing us that you have taken a look at your stormwater system and shown that to be functioned properly and everything like that. Or if they've shown that, deficiencies are there, that basically they're going to give us their outline first steps to fix it. If they don't give us anything, then it'll just trigger our staff inspection to go out and find it. And then, assuming deficiencies are to be identified, they'll receive a notice of violation and kind of follow our SOP. If they don't fix anything, same with our current post-construction program, it follows Article 8 of the UDO, which outlines all the penalties and enforcement. So again, it's not something that the town couldn't have ever done before, but certainly it's beneficial to have it specifically outlined in our ordinance that we will be doing this. The next thing is promoting the use of better site design principles through credits towards meeting stormwater retention volume requirements. So in the manual always existed a conservation area. Now, what applicants have to do when they submit for stormwater is fill out, it's called a compliance calculator. It's an Excel spreadsheet where you plug and chug, and they develop based on their sites, their size of the site, the soils, pre-development and post-development land totals, how much stormwater retention volume they are required to retain on site. But the conservation area piece that's always been our manual was never provided as a credit in the compliance calculator itself. So this change is just putting that conservation area into the calculator so that there really is an incentive for developers to conserve areas of land as natural cover or revegetate them as natural cover, okay? So in this graphic here, basically what we're showing is in Plan A, you've got a 5-acre site with D soils, which is bad soils, 35% impervious, and then 5% is your BMP, your best management practice. And don't pay too much attention to the blue, you makes you think pond, but it could be any stormwater BMP, right? So we're looking at basically, they're just saying that all their cover is managed turf. Well, then that means they're gonna have a larger BMP that's required to be on their site. Versus if you go down through Plan B and Plan C, when they convert it from an open space to a conservation area, it's greatly reducing the size of that BMP. And then obviously saving trees, right? Sometimes things can be, we found that, we never want our stormwater standards to be in conflict with tree standards. And so this is hopefully a way where they can really truly meet that stormwater retention volume without having to remove a tree to put in a BMP. Also something that is been outlined in the stormwater design manual, but the mechanism to incorporate it has never been established, is the fee in lieu. So just some background really quick. So when an applicant comes in and say they do have horrible site constraints, meaning it's usually it's a high water table and poor soils, or just even size of the site can be a constraint, that they submit for an MEP, a maximum extent practical submittal. Essentially, there are 11 criteria. The 11th one is fee in lieu. So really, before this is adopted, we've got 10 criteria that they have to meet to give beyond a reasonable doubt that they have tried everything they can to meet our stormwater design standards the best they can. Well, that's great, and that's what we have right now, but the fee in lieu basically establishes a fee to pay for that shortfall in retention volume. What those fees then would do is be put into a stormwater fund so that staff could implement projects in that same watershed, kind of make up the difference, right? BMPs. Now, the fee in lieu itself, the unit cost, would be the unit cost of retention volume. So really we have that unit cost, and whatever they aren't able to keep on their site, they then pay that towards the stormwater fund. It's not meant to be a pay this and you may go. It is not meant to be that way at all. If anything, we have, through rough calculations, identified that if nothing else, this will push them even harder to meet our stormwater retention volume requirements, which is good because, again, the 10 criteria that currently exist, staff very much feels like a check the box. Like if they've done those 10 things and they demonstrated it, then we just say, okay, but there's nothing for us without this fee in lieu to really say, you need to do this much more, or you will pay into this fund, right? So hopefully, we are excited about this. The fee in lieu itself, the cost, because it'll be based on average cost of land, cost to construct a BMP, cost to maintain a BMP, design, permitting, all that, it will be part of the master fee schedule. So that won't be until fiscal year 26 that would be, go through council, through the budget cycle. So this is just the text piece, but the physical dollar amount, that unit cost, that'll be part of the master fee schedule, and then updated yearly, just as, with regular budget. So it hopefully will always reflect current costs. Just wanted to give you that. And then we have, again, just the multiple housekeeping edits that don't change anything regulatory-wise. For example, we have several appendices that weren't even reflected, referenced at all in the manual. Several things that, as it's a regional manual, our intent was always to keep it as broad and almost as vague as possible so that it could be reflective of Beaufort County, it could be reflective of Jasper County if they were able to take it on. But we have identified through, comment received by applicants that they feel like it's almost misleading because they would like something more town specific to the process. So we've also implemented that. But yeah, so like I kind of mentioned, we have already gone through 2 rounds of public comment with design community. And we've met with a technical subcommittee to make sure that all of these Soloco partners are kind of on board with what we're suggesting. And obviously, we've already met with our consultants. Our consultant was CWP, Center for Watershed Protection. They are the original author of the manual. So if anyone knows the true intent of the manual, it's them. So I just wanted to make sure they were involved in the whole process so that what we were getting from what we wanted to do as staff, but then also what applicants were providing us wasn't steering too far from that original intent of the manual. And we're here, and then our next steps, so we will be going to the Watershed Action Plan Advisory Committee, WAPAC, next month, and then again, it'll go in front of council for adoption via resolution in February. So then we're hoping an implementation date of March 1st. Any questions for me? Nicole?
Yes.
Yeah, go for it.
So, a lot there, but going back a couple things back. When the town is going to require stormwater management plans or implementations for their retentions, master stormwater systems, say like Hampton Halls ponds, you're going to require that. I thought it's already been required in the past because I know my community has had to do inspections and had consultants come in and report that to the town. So that was just a phase that they were trying it out to see.
So it's kind of a wonky thing in that the UDO, which was adopted in 2011, did outline an annual maintenance inspection report program. At the time, because I was here then, well, not in 2011, but when I was brought on, no one was doing post-construction inspections until we became an MS4. And it was
and that triggered
one
it.
of me
Okay.
doing all erosion sediment control post-construction. So it was a staffing issue in the beginning.
Right.
And then we slowly phased into the post-construction program just because it's a bear. And then started just focusing on anything built after 2015. An email did go out to everyone requesting them, and then it gets confusing because it does, but then the Soloco manual was adopted in 2021. It references a 3-year cycle instead of an annual. And so we were like, well, we can't have this person on a 5-year cycle, which is our MS4 permit cycle.
Yeah.
And then these people on a 3-year, so now we just everyone on a 3-year, but there's still the annual inspection out there, so people get confused.
So it will be an annual inspection?
Well, no, it will be once every 3 years.
It'll be a 3-year cycle and report, oh, it's not?
No, what did you say?
It will be a three-year cycle of reports? Okay.
Yeah, so.
Inspection reports?
Yeah.
Okay.
So obviously, we would still recommend an annual overview of your system.
Right.
We are not expecting anything to be submitted to us until once every 3 years.
Gotcha.
So it's gonna be a fun time trying to keep up with all of it.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're looking at like incorporating these post-1992 stormwater ponds, because that's really what they were. We're looking at adding in like 316 ponds into our inventory.
You sound tired, Jessica.
So even if it's in a planned development that has a master storm system, are individual lots going to be required to do the, it sounds like you're going to require the Beaufort County stormwater calcs or the spreadsheet. Is that going to be required? The same sort of process that the county requires for individual lots?
For new development?
Yes.
Yes. So our criteria is if you exceed 5,000 square feet of land disturbance, which does match the county's,
Yeah.
the yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a current requirement. That's not a new thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that's going to be, it's going to be enforced.
Through stormwater permitting, it already is.
Okay.
Yeah. But to your point, like let's say an individual lot requires a rain garden. Yes. We will then be inspecting it every 3 years.
Minimal size.
Yes.
The same
now,
as counties.
a stipulation in that, just to clarify, because I think I know where you're going, we are not requiring individual homeowners that have rain gardens to be providing us with there. But we have the right to and authority to inspect. And we reach out. It's not like we show up and we're like, hey, let me see a rain garden.
Right.
We reach out and like tell them everything they need to know about how to maintain it. Oh, it's like you want me to explain it?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, no, it's fine.
I want to know, yeah.
So, okay, a good example, if you've driven down Boundary, like it all in the past 2 years, DuBose Park, there's a shallow depression there with plantings inside of it, rain garden. Right in front of the AME church, rain garden. It's just, there are depressions that are meant to hold water for up to 72 hours and then infiltrate. But they have like aquatic plantings inside of it. They're very aesthetically pleasing.
Keeping the fresh water from getting out of the saltwater rivers.
Ms. Moreno, two questions.
Yeah.
You said once every 3 years. Hampton Lake is providing you an inspection every year?
Yeah, so a lot of people, because the UDO language reflects that annual maintenance inspection and their design manual says every 3 years, people have been still submitting.
So you'll be telling Hampton Lake they don't have to do that?
Yes.
Every year? Number one. Number two question, real quick. Fee in lieu, sounds wonderful. Are we talking dollars, and I asked this of Dan, dollars, thousands, tens of thousands, or hundreds of thousands? We don't want to make it too easy for people to say, yeah,
Oh,
give
no,
me,
no,
give
no.
me fee.
So-
Just roughly. I don't need it exactly.
Yeah. And the reason why I'm hesitant to throw out the number for the unit cost is because, well, it has to go through the budget, right? And that number is going to fluctuate because the cost of everything goes up, right? And it's tough too, because again, the MEP submittals that we have received and approved so far are only really been looking at those 1 through 10 criteria. So I'm not sure if it's truly reflective of a site. If we got today that had, and we had a fee in lieu established, if they would be okay with, like, let's just say a site has 22,000 required cubic volume, right? And then they come in and they say, well, we can't, I shouldn't say that. We cannot because of, we approved it, right? So it's not like they can just say that. But it's, say they could only do 1,000. Well, that massive gap, that difference in SWRV retention volume is basically multiplied by the unit cost. And we have run the numbers. And again, it's not accurate because
I'm not holding you to
Yeah, no,
I
it's
just don't know
millions.
if it's a dog or an elephant.
it's an elephant.
Okay,
It's an elephant.
okay.
It's a big, big elephant.
Like a herd of elephants, the way she's talking.
It was shocking to staff, but it's not a bad thing because to your point, that's absolutely correct. The intent is to never make it. So it's here's, take my money. We're going to
Okay.
carry on.
If you're telling me it's an elephant, that's good enough for me.
No, but it also, it has to also be able to pay for a project in the future, right? That's in that same watershed. The number has to make sense for, it'll be a shock to some, but it's also,
But the intent is to have development create more open space and conservation land.
yes.
That's
through
that's the main purpose of
Right.
it, is to create more open space and conservation land.
Yeah,
Somewhere.
Yeah.
On the
Right.
development or not.
Right.
yeah. But I mean, this will be very, very helpful, certainly because it does allow for that special fund so that, town can implement green infrastructure practices, which green infrastructure just can mean anything from permeable pavement to a rain garden to green roof, right? There's lots of options, but it allows the funding for those opportunities where a developer can't do it on that particular site. But yeah, I mean, it'll definitely, hopefully, I mean, I can say that, I guess, that force them to reconsider how many buildings they have and downsizing compared to what it would cost for fee in lieu.
My turn? You thought I wasn't gonna say anything. To piggyback on both of these, and specifically the Hampton Lake, there's a community that I used to live in that shall remain unnamed, that we had a little discussion on yesterday.
Yes.
One of my concerns about this is, if I understand this correctly, and this is, today you can do this, and I'm curious what it's gonna look like when this passes and these changes are enacted. Today, if I'm on a board in a community, I can go get certified to do the inspection. So as the board member, I can do the inspection and submit a report to the town that may or may not be accurate because I don't feel like doing the repairs I may have discovered. And there's nothing the town necessarily would know about that.
So what I can say is they absolutely can get that certification, the same certification I have. We currently do not have anything that stipulates that they have to be a third-party inspector.
I think we need to look at that.
I will say that I agree. But we do have the ability to reach out to Clemson Extension and report inspectors that are not doing their
Well-
job. And they can have their certification removed.
Without getting into details, I have firsthand knowledge of self-certified people that were informed by a third party of where a failure in the system was, and it has been ignored to this day.
That,
How do we keep that from happening absent of doing?
well,
third party?
so, and I know which one you're speaking of, so I'm trying to get into details. The town stepped in and we did our,
Two, one has been fixed, the other one still hasn't been fixed.
no, well, I'm not aware of the first one, but
Yeah.
we did inspections of what was built after 2015.
Because a homeowner called you.
Yes. Yes.
Again, it comes back to, and this is my concern on this, and
But that will, so those communities that we get roped in, those, everything after 1992, which quite frankly, I mean, I was,
Everything.
I was born then. It's everything. Because I was born here. The intent would be that we are going out every 3 years and looking at these systems. It's not unlikely that they'd have issues in a 3-year period, but certainly less
Well,
likely. So I guess all I can say to that is certainly if we receive something from a community where they made it look shiny, sparkle, brand new, and we go out to inspect and find a different story, then that is our opportunity to not only issue a notice of violation, but then to report that inspector.
The concerns I have are twofold. First of all, yeah, you're talking about, in 3 years, likely something's not gonna happen, but, Pine Ridge, built in '04, Pinecrest, built back then. I guarantee you, they have not been maintaining their stormwater systems to the level they should. So if an inspector goes out there, they're gonna find issues.
Right.
The second part of this is coming back around to why I was asking those questions. I strongly suggest that we put language in here to make sure that the inspectors are third-party inspectors. I really think we're opening it up for problems, and the problems may not be now or even 10 years from now, but 20 or 30 years from now, if we're letting the fox inspect the hen house, we're going to end up with stormwater issues, and it's going to affect the May, and it's going to affect some of the other watersheds here. And I, for one, don't want to see that.
Okay.
So,
I'll work with staff to incorporate that.
well, that's
I know it's
one
been-
opinion, but.
I know, but I know it's been discussed. It's,
And it's an expense for the communities. I
it
get
is, I think, that would be, for erosion sediment control, for example, right? We require weekly inspection reports by a third-party inspector. That is direct reference from the construction general permit from the state. So there isn't that direct reference. It would be the town then becoming, which we can obviously, but it would be a big change.
I just, as you're asking us for kind of
Yeah, no,
feedback
I
and
appreciate that.
thoughts.
I appreciate
When you go to whoever makes the decision, it might be something that needs to be raised. See if they think it's a good idea.
Okay. I might need to talk with Richardson on that one, because I'm certainly for it, me doing them, but, we need to get.
Alright. Anybody else? With that, do I have an motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you for that.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for your time.